Hey, this is Adrienne over in Sweden.
Hey, it's your girl Kate Pearl over here in the UK.
We're back for season of Healing Racial Trauma on the Black Women in Europe podcast.
We're going to be unpacking racial trauma, setting boundaries, healing, and living your best lives.
So we will see you. Be well.
Bye.
What if I told you that healing isn't what you think it is? That it's not all about positive affirmations and candles. I would never have suggested that, but just for a cheesy beginning, because it makes me laugh. Because when I realised how deep my trauma ran, it shook me. I mean, there's a saying, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. And something like that happened. All of the years of pretending to be fine, brushing off all the microaggressions, smiling through the pain, no matter how much it hurt or how much I bled, all came crashing down. Suddenly, I felt everything at once. The exhaustion, the sadness, the anger, all hit hard. I'm talking about racial trauma, the type we are taught to completely ignore. The kind we're told doesn't matter, but it does. It always does. We don't acknowledge it. We volunteer to push ourselves to the brink. It weighs us down in ways we can't even articulate. And if we're not careful, we end up carrying it in our bones, in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls. I'm Kate Pearl, and I'm about to break down what real healing looked like for me, in the hopes that it will help you. Keep it 100. It's messy. It's uncomfortable, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's real, and that's the only kind of healing that's worth it. It wasn't some one-size-fits-all method. I was realising I didn't have to carry this weight alone, and it was ultimately leaning on me because I get it. We've spoken many times about cultural incompetence and how lonely this journey can be. I get it, and that's what mattered. That said, the odd people that I've found that have been with me on this journey who do understand, often over the internet, my Black British brothers and sisters who confound me, are the ones who remind me that this isn't just any fight, and it's not just my fight. It's something generations before me have dealt with, and it's something we continue to confront today. And when we confront it together, we're unstoppable. It became a process of standing tall in my truth, even, in fact, especially when it wasn't easy. It was no longer about pretending everything was fine to make others feel comfortable. It was about owning my pain and turning it into my strength. I found a new power in embracing my flaws, my anger, and my hurt. I knew it didn't make me weak. It made me real. It made me human. And crucially, it meant that I was actually doing the work. That's a big one. Healing isn't linear. It isn't a one-time fix, but it's absolutely necessary. Healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about reclaiming what was always ours. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, no pretending. Yes, the therapy bill. As in, just us, just real. If this hit you to your core, or if it didn't hit you to your core and you know someone it would, I need you to share it around any corner of the internet you feel like, because racial trauma is going nowhere, which means the conversation can't.
Let's get right into racial trauma, reclaiming self.
100%. We're just going to take a moment though before we do. This stuff's heavy, disclaimer, just to settle into this space. Yeah. Inhale, exhale, all that malark. And there's no pressure to have it all together, either while you're listening or when you're incorporating this stuff into your life and into your psyche. And there's no pressure to even have like words for what you're feeling, because you're going to potentially feel all sorts. Racial trauma isn't always loud. And it doesn't always come from one big moment that you can point to. Sometimes it's, and in fact, a lot of the time even, it's actually the accumulation. Yeah, the small things, the constant things. Yeah, the looks, the tone shifts, the moments where you clock something's off, but you keep it moving anyway, right? Survival mode, all that stuff. It's times where you've had to, I guess, adjust yourself and shrink yourself even, or disconnect. This is really the kicker. Disconnect from parts of who you are just to get through the day without it becoming a whole ass thing. Yeah. And the thing about racial trauma over time, that does something to you. It shapes how you see yourself, how you move through the world, what you say, what you don't say. And sometimes it's so gradually you don't even realize it's happening. So today we're really going to key into this. We're going to talk about it, not just what racial trauma is, but what it does and what it can actually take from you. And we're talking rob you blind if it goes unspoken. Yeah. So
Okay, as Kate said, inhale, exhale. I went on camera a second to grab my tea. So, okay.
Got mine too.
Got yours too. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're going to touch on what it actually looks like to start coming back to yourself. Yeah. Slowly, gently, and crucially on your own terms. Yeah. So that's the opener, people. So, big question, what actually is racial trauma? Yeah. The thing about racial trauma is a lot of us, we don't even know that's what it is, and we definitely don't call it that. Right. We get into the habit of normalizing it. We call it, just one of those things. We often say things like, it is what it is. We keep it moving, right? Because if we stop to process every single moment, every look, every comment, every shift in energy, we'd be absolutely exhausted. Yeah. So we adapt.
Exhausted and insane or angry.
Crazy. Batshit, all of it. Yeah. We learn how to read people quickly, and we learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. All of this being a process, work, labor. We learn how to make ourselves more acceptable depending on the space that we're in. Yeah. And the thing to be said about that adaptation, and I guess kind of almost constant contortion in a way of putting it, for want of a better term, it's survival. Bottom line, like, it is survival.
And you know what, Kate? I don't know if Parliament Funkadelic was popular in the UK, and you're such a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Young. But what you just said with the contortionist, it reminds me of a lyric from, the lyric is, we can dance underwater without get wet. With the rhythm it takes to get through what we have to go through, we can dance underwater and not get wet. Now, I didn't know what that meant then. Little teenager, preteen, or whatever, when that came out.
Yeah.
But now
makes so much sense now.
It makes so much sense. And we do it with style and class, and it seems like with such apparent ease. That's why people think that we are less sensitive to pain, or we are, all these things that society throws at us. They believe it because we get through it and we look good and we're still having fun, but on the inside we're dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not having healthy relationships.
Exactly.
We're not thriving.
No.
So
we're not.
The contortionist, I love that image.
Yeah. And we're not, simultaneously, we're shortchanged on the lesson of setting and learning about, learning boundaries, or even our needs, just the basics. Yeah. So basic, but no, definitely not for this tribe, And that survival it does. We're talking ultimately about the cost of all of this, because the more we normalize it, the less we realize what it's actually doing to us. And again, you can see that reflected structurally in so many ways. With mental health crisis, long before it even became a trend, but mental health crisis in the main, we're talking some serious business here. In the UK, globally, again, I like my bookshelf. I was going to bring that back this season, of course. But in the UK, NHS England data shows that Black people are more likely to access mental health services at crisis point. Yeah, not early in the journey, because again, we don't necessarily know these things, and we also aren't being given the language or the permission to use it to understand what's really happening.
Kate, I was just going to get excited thinking, oh, we're using mental health services, because it could be a stigma in the Black community.
100%.
To do that. So, but what you're saying in the UK, the data is showing that whether we think it's a stigma or not, whether we ignore the symptoms, it does catch up with you. And 100%. Then when it catches up with you, then we go get the help we need.
Yes. So it is great that, we're starting to reach out, but we're at crisis point before that. And we're still getting advice a lot of the time that completely ignores the impact of racism and racial trauma. Yeah.
So even when you do get the help in the crisis, it may not be the best help.
Exactly. Or it's way harder to find anything even remotely resembling that. Yeah. So it's not just that we're coping or moving through it, or just it is what it is, all that stuff that we've talked about already. It's that we're coping for so long without support that by the time we do reach out, it's already either a lot or too much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, when is the best time to start? As soon as you feel something, but then we don't necessarily feel something because we've normalized it. So it can maybe seem tricky, but I think in general, just like you get your annual exam, and ladies, hopefully your breast exam and your pelvic exam and any other exam, maybe think about having a mental health exam. I don't know if that's something that you could just talk to your general practitioner and say, hey, you know what? Maybe let's talk about how I'm feeling. Can you give me a referral for something? But I think it's as important as everything else, and we just don't make it a priority.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And so many of us aren't being supported when we first need that help. Just to really, got to what's the word I'm after? Kind of, elaborate that. We're being met when things have already escalated, and to what end and at what cost. And honestly, I've felt like that. Waiting until things feel too much before even considering support took me such a long time. And when you think about it, it does. It makes sense why so many of us are carrying so much. And that's what makes this conversation important, because you can't begin to reclaim yourself if you've been taught to normalize the things that have been chipping away at you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because a lot of this stuff manifests physically as well. So it makes it really tough. It makes it really, really tough. Not impossible, but tough.
It's tough, but as you say, not as impossible. And a lot of people shy away from things that are tough. But this is something that it can be scary too. But if you get to the point where you know something's wrong, you just got to keep going. There's no turning back at that point.
Absolutely.
Right? Just be brave. Just be brave and do it. I mean, I have coaching that I can do on an app. So, maybe sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to talk to somebody. It's too hard. There's ways you can do it with an app so that you can keep your privacy, and because it is hard to reveal things that you may be ashamed of or don't know how to talk about. But Kate is right, it's hard, but I'm just trying to suggest ways that it can maybe be easier. So in the 21st century, we do have technology that can help us get the help we need.
We do. And it's a great thing. For that reason, it is a great time to be alive, that we do have more access. And definitely more resources out there to even be able to access, to help us along these journeys. Yeah. Going to touch a little bit about how racial trauma shows up. Yeah. What it might even
be.
And we're not a monolith. There'll be different things for different people. Yeah. But one of the biggest ways that racial trauma tends to show up is that you are always on. Like there's no off switch. Rest. You feel like you've got to earn it, like it's some big prize for constantly overexerting yourself, even if that's not what's necessarily going through your mind or in those words. That is a big sign of it. Your body's alert, your mind is alert, and you're scanning the room before you even step in. Yeah, because your history's taught you that you do need to do this. It's like constant protection mode. Yeah, so it could, these things could, easily be triggered by things like the tone of someone's voice, the energy in the space, like we talked about learning how to read rooms and energy, little micro shifts that tell you who's safe and who isn't. Yeah. And the general emotion.
I can give you an example. Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily subtle, but you go to a networking event or a networking event, let's say it like that. You walk in, everyone looks at you. You're used to that because you're gorgeous, you're dressed nice, whatever. But then you realize you're the only Black person here, or maybe the only Black woman.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're like, okay, I'm used to that, right? No big deal. You go on. You have your name tag, you're registered, you go on, you get your little drink, and then someone comes up and says, who are you? Why are you here? So people don't even have to be subtle. People are so
blatant,
privileged
yeah,
that they're not even subtle. Because here's the thing: I'm here because for the same reason you're. To me, it's like and I'm like, I don't understand the question because you don't understand the question. It's a networking event. You have the name tag. He's here to net. Like you don't understand the question. So what do you do then? Right? That's where. So that's like people in your face. What if nobody said anything and they're just looking at you? That's you're on edge. What if nobody talks to you the whole day, the whole event? You're on edge. What if you try to get in and people just the whole? So that's I want to give that as an example because maybe that's happened to someone and you just think, oh, you don't know. Maybe this is a cliquey group or I don't like this network thing because there's 1,000 networking things. No, it's probably not you. It's them.
Them, yeah.
And
another one might be your workplace, for example. I've had a few like that since you're going on a professional like networking basis. Workplaces, you might be the only one there and you're possibly the one that gets stonewalled all the time. And again, it's not you.
And you got to go in there every day.
But you've literally
this is a place you have to go every work day. That networking thing, I could come or go, leave early, but you have to go to your work every day.
You're there for the same reason everybody else is. You're doing your job. This, that, and the other. But yeah, you may have noticed a theme. And again, it's not you, it's them, and it is what you think it is. Because that's the other thing. Racial trauma can be gaslighting ourselves into trying to believe, oh, that's just a cliquey group. No. You were right the first time. Yeah. So all this equates to the general emotional bullshit that comes with hoping you were right about the ones you could be friends with. And
I wanted to say, Kate, trust your gut, right? Oh, yeah. You were right. Like you said, you were right. So you knew you had that feeling, trust your gut. And as you say, oh, no, trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Yeah, exactly. And one way to really drive yourself crazy, because like we're talking about trauma, but one way to really drive yourself nuts is by not trusting your gut and not going with your intuition. I'm going to say it again. You were right the first time. Okay.
Because if you don't trust, it's always a major fail. Exactly. Major fail. At least 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
At least 9 times out of 10. Nothing is 100%. Maybe we can say, right? There's always miracles, exceptions. But 9 times out of 10, if you ignore your gut, it's going to be a major fail. And then when your gut says something, if you're lucky enough to be in tune and you can hear your gut talking to you or feel it, listen. Because Kate, it took me years or maybe a lot of misfires before I realized, oh, that was my intuition. That was what that voice talking to me. And, maybe even if you're a spiritual person, that was God talking to me. That was my God. So you have to slow down and listen and be able to hear it and then trust it. And there's a mind-body connection. Okay, that message is from my gut is going to my brain to tell me to speak and say no. Or to get out. It's telling my body, my limbs to get out. Which is why, as Kate was saying, we're always on. You don't want to be always on. Because then you can't hear the messages. You can't hear the messages.
100%. 100%. And environments similar to the ones that Adrienne and I have just mentioned. I'm sure listeners can think of many more. You might do things like soften your voice. You might shrink a little. Or maybe you do things like overcompensate. So things like over-explaining, over-proving, over-delivering. You can people please yourself into an absolute oblivion just to stay ahead of how you might be perceived or how you're already picking up on how you're being perceived. Again, not you, them, reminder. And the thing about it is, this stuff, it doesn't stop when you leave the room because it follows you, like it leaves a print. You replay conversations in your head, second guess everything that you just said, even though you knew you were right. Yeah. And you might even wonder if you said too much or not enough. You can
your body.
Exactly.
Your body holds on to all of that as well.
Yeah.
And your body, that book, did we mention it before? Your body keeps the score.
Your body keeps the score.
We mentioned it in the previous season. Yeah. So your body, whether your mind can process it or not, your body did. And it's hanging on to it until you can process it out. And not just running. Okay. That'll help because as Kate said, you will still replay it over and over.
Yeah.
So you gotta, oh, child. I'm just thinking about so many ways. Yeah, I'm just thinking about so many ways people try to make you feel, like so many ways people want you to shrink. Let me just put it like that. So many ways that people want you to shrink.
They do. They do. And you catch yourself thinking stuff as well. Again, might be resonating here for someone. If I just bend a little, maybe if I just hold back, it'll be easier. And that constant, always on state, because we're on overdrive everywhere in every way that's possible. It's exhausting, and it can come out looking like anxiety or hypervigilance or just tension in all the places that you can't shake. And the really tricky part is you might not even recognize that that's trauma. And specifically, you probably don't recognize that it's racial trauma. Yeah.
And let's be real, it can show up as high blood pressure. High blood pressure kills. It can show up as autoimmune diseases or disorders or conditions because stress breaks your body down. If you're walking around in a chronic state of stress, always on, as Kate says, you're going to be sick. You are sick and don't know it. You might even go into the doctor. Do you have diabetes? Do you know what your blood pressure are? Because if you were going to the doctor would be like, you're stressed. What's going on? Why are your readings so high? So it's not something you can ignore. It doesn't go away. It's not something, and that's why our Black communities around the world, in the Western world, are disproportionately sicker than the privileged people in those same societies. We're disproportionately sicker for everything, all of the counts. Mortality rates across the board, whether it's resulting from, like I said, high blood pressure, heart disease, giving birth.
Yeah. So many.
We're dying disproportionately. Yeah, we're dying and suffering disproportionately to stress-related reasons. Not everybody has stress, but everybody's not living under racial trauma like we are. So, expression: if white America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia.
Yes.
So that's kind of how. And so I'm just stressing that because it's so easy for us to say it's okay. I'm just tired. My mom had high blood pressure. It was like that. We're breaking the chain. Yeah, they have it, but we don't have to. We don't want.
That stops here. Yeah. And I love everything Adrienne just said. And please take that seriously, because those physical conditions as well, they're not messing. And being always on, what we're saying there is that it always comes at a cost. It costs you energy, it costs mental space, it costs pieces of yourself every time you shrink or soften or hold back. And that's the part people don't always see, the quiet toll, the slow wearing down. Racial trauma, gotta stress this, isn't just in the big moments, it's in the constant recalibration, like the survival mode that never fully switches off. And good news though, that's very heavy. Good news, once you notice it, once you actually name it, like call it what it is, find the language or be given the language and the permission slip, you can start to reclaim the space it's been taking from you. Good news. Yeah.
Very good news. Very good news. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to change the other people. No. That's not even your job or your concern. That's not your mission. Stay focused, right? You're not trying to, we're done with that. Go catch in the archives that episode, Why We're Tired of Teaching People, Why Black Women, I forget the exact title, but Kate breaks it down like, well, it's not up to us. We're exhausted. We're not doing that. This is for us. We're not, if our eyes are listening, great. But make sure that you don't spend your energy trying to teach people that was racist.
No.
You can say, clock it, that's racist. Decide how you're going to respond depending on that situation. Was that work? Was that your boss? Do you need to be getting your CV together? Was that your boyfriend's family? Really? Mm-hmm. Is that the one for you? I mean, so you clock that information. Don't take the energy trying to educate people. That's the energy you need for yourself. Exactly. And you figure out what you're going to do with that information. Because as Kate says, I think Maya Angelou said, people show you who they are.
Leave them the first time. In my voice of doom. You got that, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. next part, we're just going to talk a bit more about the disconnect from self, which, putting everything we've said together, is pretty much what this points to. Yeah, because racial trauma, it doesn't just shape the world around you, it shapes the world inside you, your inner world. Yeah, some parts of yourself you show, others you hide, and some parts you don't even realize you've tucked away. Yeah, so things, your laughter, your opinions, your anger, your beauty, your creativity, you start learning which parts are safe to reveal and which parts could cost you. So you adapt, you adjust, you protect, and I suppose in many respects, you almost create identities based on who you're around and what environment you're in. Not shelling it, you're editing your very essence, sometimes so subtly that you don't even notice it. And over time, you start to feel like a stranger to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can wake up and look in the mirror and think, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're just a shadow of who you used to be.
Exactly.
And not to get confused that with, of course, you have different roles as a mother or a daughter or a sister or a lover or this, and that you're going to be different things, but that you're your genuine self in all of those roles.
Yeah.
Which is why those you're so important to all those people in your life, because you are who you are. And if you're with someone and you can't be your authentic self, what are you really bringing to the relationship?
Yeah, and it's self-betrayal as well. It's self-betrayal. Yeah, because the self you walked around as, the one that everyone sees, isn't quite the self you started with. And all of these, what you mentioned, Adrienne, all of these roles that you play in the lives and worlds of others, yes, important. But what role are you playing in the life and world of yourself when you're operating in your survival self or your cautious self, the self that keeps you safe, but keeps you apart or distanced from you? Because you might catch glimpses of yourself in quiet moments, but the parts you've hidden, held back, or you've softened, they feel distant. And the first step to reclaiming yourself is seeing that first. So awareness and acknowledgement, naming it, feeling it, like actually allow yourself to feel it, because until you do, you can't start bringing all those pieces back together, and you're going to have a real hard time reclaiming yourself in all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've heard it before. Remember, why not be yourself? Because that's why you even exist. If you're not yourself, you're cheating the world. 100%. Maybe that's why the world feels so chaotic and out of order. There's so many people running around not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is being their authentic self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're all supposed to be doing something for the benefit of ourselves and others. And when you're not doing that, I totally believe that's why things are off kilter. And you can look at it like in a microcosm, even in your home. Your home, we got to be working in sync. We have to be working in the sync for a household to even flow. Everybody has something they have to do, even children. And children, what do children have to do? They have to laugh and bring joy and laughter in the house.
Yeah.
Right? When they're little ones, that's why you bring a baby into the house to bring laughter and joy and hope. That's what they're supposed to do. And then as they grow up, you teach them other things they do to contribute to the household. You bring them into the kitchen, you teach them how to do their chores. But when, everybody has a role to play. And I truly believe this in society. People are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And I can understand there were years I wasn't maybe on my path, but I don't think I was out there purposely trying to harm people. So once you get into sync of what you're supposed to be doing, it'll all work together. So if you can realize that racial trauma is hurting you, what did Kate say? That's step one. And then start doing the work from there. You can take yourself out of chronic stress. We're not supposed to be in chronic stress all the time. You can't function in chronic stress. You can survive, but you can't thrive. And you know the difference. Sit down, be honest. Am I thriving or surviving?
Exactly.
And if you say I'm not even surviving, I mean, I've been there too. Where you're like, I'm not even surviving. What the hell? Then you get up to survive, and then up to thrive. But if you can go from not surviving to thrive, it's possible. It doesn't happen overnight. But that shift happens immediately once you realize, wait a minute. my gut told me something, or I walked into energy change. When you just can start noticing and acknowledging, as Kate said,
exactly. And that's crucial.
There's no going back. There's no going back.
There isn't. No, 100%. There isn't. And once you do clock this, and you know, there's just something that just no longer sits right in your spirit to the point where it does shake you. Yeah. And then just things to take on, guys. Like awareness. I'm gonna say that again. That's like the first step. Acknowledge it. Yeah. But things to think about. Notice when you shrink. You know, notice when you soften. Notice when you're silencing parts of yourself. This all obviously it's not overnight. It all gets there though. You know, awareness is seeing the patterns without shame. Yeah. Another part of yourself, voice, speak, even if your hands shake or your words stumble, because your truth matters. Let your voice be heard. That's another step to reclaiming yourself. We have touched on this, but I think nowhere near enough. Rest, people. Rest isn't optional. It's actually revolutionary. It's necessary. Stop overextending. Stop proving. Pause, breathe, and let your mind and body rest. So these are things you can do, you know, even in your daily community. We've tapped on that a little bit. You know, find your people, and if they're not on your doorstep, you might be blessed, like Adrienne and I. They're on, you know, in the digispace. You know, those who can reflect you back, who affirm your existence, who remind you that you belong and that you weren't meant to do this alone. And then the biggest I'd say is authenticity. However you got to do it, stop editing your essence. Stop softening your energy to make others comfortable, and show up as all of you, flawed, brilliant, messy, and whole. Yeah. So they were just 5 points I wanted to leave you guys with for this episode. So yeah, feel fully loaded.
Feel fully loaded. Well, we're not over yet, because every week we don't just talk about the hard stuff. We don't just share honestly from our experiences. Leave you with mindfulness practice. Key to surviving and thriving is to not be in chronic stress. So that's what the mindfulness is for. You've got 3 affirmations today. You can either write them down or come back and listen to them. But I want you to repeat them after me, either to yourself or aloud. I am more than what I have survived. My identity is not limited by pain, pressure, or fear. I am more than what I have survived. My identity is not limited by pain, pressure, or fear. Number 2, my body deserves rest. My mind deserves peace, and my life deserves care. My body deserves rest. My mind deserves peace. My body deserves care. I'm sorry, my life deserves care. Last one. I tell the truth about what I have lived through, and I give myself permission to heal, reclaim, and begin again. I tell the truth about what I have lived through, and I give myself permission to heal, reclaim, and begin again. This is Adrienne, your mindfulness activist.
And this is Kate Pearl over in the UK.
And we're so glad and grateful that you spent this time with us. Be well.
Next time. All right, so that's a wrap on this episode. Hope you found it healing, enlightening, and empowering.
We got through it. And next week, we'll be doing the same kind of work. In between time, in the meantime, find Kate at katepearl.com. And you can find me at rootedfor.care. Be well.
Enjoy.